As always, we're going to give you guys a few moments to get your watch party started. Definitely want you guys to join in tonight and comment on all the topic or comment on the topics that we're going to be discussing, as well as call in. So if you guys are interested in calling in, and I can never remember this number offhand, but it's 346-320-2103 if you guys want to call in tonight. So right along to
hey there, everybody. Hi. Welcome tonight.
Yes.
It's Tuesday. I don't know what that means for some of you, but I just hope it's not a long week. Today was a pretty busy day, but I got some announcements. Do you mind if I go ahead and say the announcements?
I think we're going to switch it up a little bit. I'm going to let my wife do the announcements tonight.
Yeah. I mean,
Go ahead.
We have no rules. Okay. Hey, so we do have some great announcements, and one of them is, first of all, welcome, my darling. How are you?
Thank you
for
having me. I'm doing well tonight. How are you?
Good.
Okay.
And don't forget in the corner. We got
I know. We've got our doll over here. She's a life-size doll. That's Megan, our assistant. But I wanted to just share some things with you really briefly. We have some announcements, and I was going to save it for last, but I think we should do it first, and that is our Pastor Christopher McKinney. Today is his birthday. Yay! So shout out to Pastor Chris of I Encounter Church and operator, GospelRadioNation.com.
Yes.
So anyway, yes, want to send a shout out to him. He is just a wonderful, humble man of God, and very blessed and highly favored, as well as, which leads into his lovely wife, who is also associate pastor, just the same, assistant pastor and founder of I Encounter Church, The Dream.
Yes.
She is going to be at the Houston Improv on Wednesday, March 25th. Once again, we've seen her before. I've interviewed her before on our show, and she is fabulous. Fabulous is it's such an understatement. She is gifted and talented.
Yes, she is.
Through and through. So she is the dream. She is well known in Houston. And so she will be at Houston's Improv. That is Wednesday, the 25th, and that starts at 8 p.m. Tickets are $20 and $30 for VIP. And it's March Madness. And so it's Faith versus Fear, and that's the poetry event's title that night. And then, last but not least, we have this, I don't know, it's kind of this thing we're doing. We have the A-list couples that we are featuring.
Yes.
And so we featured Team Tyler. They had their anniversary this week, and we featured them, and they were high school sweethearts. So they're hashtag high school. So this is what we want to do. We have opened this up to everyone, all of our listeners, our supporters, all of you that like our page and on our group, and just our friends. And so we'd like you to, if you would, go to our page, post your picture, and then put the hashtag of what you'd like to be listed as. Whether it's hashtag PA couple, hashtag chill couple, you get the idea. So send it to us, and we'll be happy to post it. We're selecting them.
Hashtag boss couple, whatever you guys want to put on there.
Yeah, so just go ahead and send it. And what we'll do is we'll select couples as they come in.
Turn that volume down.
We'll select couples, and you can see if you're selected. So we'll switch them out every Sunday. Every Sunday night is when we will go ahead and post them for the next week, and we'll go over into the next week. So there's a new couple featured every week. How's that?
Yep.
All right.
That's good.
You ready to pray? Sorry about that, guys.
When we say turn that radio down, turn that radio down. We're going to pray, and we're going to get right into it, guys. Go ahead, baby.
Father God, thank you. Once again, we come in this day declaring that you are Lord. We ask you to be with us tonight, Father, and just be with us and our guests. Be with our guests, and just move through her, Lord. We all decrease and let you increase, Father. As we just surrender all to you. We pray for our guests and anybody that is afflicted or affected by the topic tonight. We just ask that you move amongst us all and just be God. And we thank you for this. We know you will. You're able. In your precious name. Amen.
Amen. So, guys, we see the topic dealing with a depressed spouse. And although every call or every letter that we receive. We take it very seriously. This is one of those that we really have to take seriously because there's so many people suffering from depression out there, whether it be diagnosed or undiagnosed, and they don't even realize it, or people don't dare, meaning their family members or friends. They might not even know the symptoms or know that they're even going through this. So, although again, I'm just prefacing this. Although, as you guys know, every one of our letters that we get, we take it very seriously. This one here is really, we're really gonna, focus in on it because depression hits. I think it's 1 in 15.
It's 1 in 4.
Yeah, 1 in 4 people.
Yeah.
Yeah, so the numbers are really high and all, and we even have family members that are affected by it. So this is definitely
Because
something.
of those numbers, I mean, 1 in 4.
Yeah.
I mean,
How big is your family?
Yeah.
Well, it's 4 of us
It's
here.
4 of us.
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah.
So it's just something that we have to deal with in our family, with our family members. Back in the day, Uncle Joe used to be in the back room back there, and nobody went back there because it was crazy Uncle Joe. But little did people know or realize is that crazy Uncle Joe probably had a condition that no one addressed or no one even cared to look into. I mean, they just didn't do those things back in those days. And you guys that know our story, yes, even though we're counselors, the reason that we have the radio shows and the reason that we go out in the public and talk about counseling and helping people and all is because the stigma within our community about going to counseling. Black people don't do that. Black people don't do counseling. Well, yes, Black people do counseling.
Well, and I mean, not only that, you guys, it's not even. I mean, when we talk about it, it's like even adults, but we got to look at our teens. I mean, it's like just as a people, what our teens are experiencing. They're in a whole nother level now because of social media and all that.
Yeah.
So it starts early on. I think that when we, maybe years ago, it was just looked at as what's wrong with him, or he's just quiet or whatever, but never really tapping into, what's going on with the child, why they act out or why, so it started long ago, but it's now just starting to, there's a laser beam on it and people are starting to be more aware. And I'm hoping that even if it's kind of hush hush, that they're doing it within their family to really try to help, if they're not so public with it, but they do what they can. And I just hope I believe that in your family, if that's what you're doing as a coping, that you're just loving the person as best you can to help love them through it, opposed to,
I think
just alienating them.
Yeah, when the parents get help, the children can get help. I know in my home, my children are growing up with a parent that deals with mental illness. Okay. So they are familiar. They've been exposed to depression, anxiety, a panic attack. That's completely different from being bipolar or schizophrenic. Yeah, and so my children have been allowed the privilege to be able to be educated early on because it's in the house. Where years ago, like you were saying, people didn't address it. So the parents didn't get help, the children didn't get help. Everybody just kept sweeping it under the rug.
They didn't know what it was.
They didn't know what it was.
Yeah.
And they didn't want to call it anything.
Are perpetuated.
They didn't want to put the attention.
No, they didn't want to call it anything because we don't do that as the people.
Exactly.
That's what's wrong with you.
Yeah. Get over it.
Exactly. Take some of this tussin and go lay down and take a nap.
Rub the mix on you. It's gonna heal it all.
Yeah. So in case you're wondering who our prolific guest is here, we have. Do we say the L? Or do we
say L.
What would you prefer?
L. Nicole Goodman. She's a published author, professional speaker, a certified belief therapist. And also,
therapist.
Yeah, she's also a leader in education, mentorship, and spiritual leadership. She utilizes her expertise and personal experience to address self-discovery, spiritual development, and overcoming mental health, which we're going to talk about. And we're going to talk about an interchangeable word or phrase other than mental health.
Exactly.
So why don't you, I read off your mini bio and then I was looking at your website, so there's so much more, but can you tell our audience who you are and what you do, what it is that you do?
Yes, I am Elle Nicole Goodman.
Uh-huh.
You can just call me Nicole on the show.
We will.
But like you said, I am a published author. I have been working in the field of public relations. I'll say it like that.
Mhm.
You know, really helping people and assisting people at least for the last 10 years. Within the last 5 years, I've really tapped into my gift with being able to help people get through emotions and dealing with their mental health. When I originally was diagnosed, I went to the church because that's what I knew.
Wow.
And the church could not help me at the time. They were not equipped with the education. And quite frankly, some of them just didn't want to deal with it.
What year was that? Would you say?
That
we're
was
thinking
probably.
in terms of church and
we're
as far as
thinking-
where they are now.
So the first time I reached out was probably about 2010, 2011. My first year
10 years
being
ago.
diagnosed was I was just crazy for real. I mean, I had driven myself crazy outside of my diagnosis, just not knowing what I was dealing with, what I was up against, and then dealing with regular life stresses on top of that. It was just a difficult time. But when I began to start trying to get healing and get some answers, the church could not help me.
Wow.
And I got a lot of, keep praying about it, sister.
Mhm.
You got to keep believing. It was almost, they were suggesting that my faith wasn't deep enough or strong enough to be able to overtake the emotions of the depression or the anxiety. But it really struck a match in me, like, there's a problem here.
Yeah.
You know?
That's how
And,
people get church hurt.
that's exactly how people get church hurt. And I think in some ways I was.
Sure.
And I bounced around from church to church for a while, and I kept saying, I'm looking for a church home. But really what I was looking for was somebody to understand, somebody to take me under their wings. I was young. I was seeking a spiritual relationship independently, so I didn't have my family, my friends really mentoring me into the process. In fact, I became more of the light for everybody else. And so, you know, it was trying to do that and still live. And, you know, I was making my mistakes out in the world, doing things, you know. So it was just all of that combined. But that's what grew the ministry, you know, being able to assist and help and really pour out my testimony and say, hey, I went through this. In so many ways, I became almost a face, because when people see my face, and I'm not boasting, I know I have a pretty smile. I have had people say,
It's a facade.
nothing's wrong with you.
Yeah.
As if, who would make it up, you know?
Right.
Yeah.
And I started looking around. I didn't look like what society had, you know, the picture that society drew.
Isn't it good that we don't look like what we've been through, everybody?
Exactly.
Yes.
Amen to that.
Exactly.
Yes.
And I just remember being in hospitals, mental health hospitals, and I didn't look like everybody else. In fact, I dealt with my conditions different from everybody else. And I remember one of the last times I went in, the nurse, the tech, she said, why are you here? And I went on and tell her all my spiel, and I just want to die, and I don't want to live. And she said, you're not even supposed to be here. It was like she didn't hear anything I said.
She was just
You're in the
looking at
wrong
your outlook.
building. You're in the wrong building.
And I was on the computer. She said, look what you're doing right now. I was looking up scriptures for another lady in the facility with me. And she said, look what you're doing right now.
Wow.
And that was it. And from that day, I said, yeah, you know, it was time for
So
me
that
to
was
start
your
going.
Damascus Road moment, or
I guess you could say that.
uh,
I guess you could say that.
really?
But yeah, God has put me in a lot of positions that were not always comfortable, but really confirming to me that I have a role and I have a goal and a mission and a purpose. And
Yes.
part of that purpose is to help people
Mhm.
overcome and not feel like they are sacrificing their faith in God.
Mhm.
You know, that Christ's sovereignty is not, you know, at hand at the moment
Yeah.
because you took some antidepressants or because you went to therapy or because you went to counseling. You know, you were not, you know, trading in your faith for a pill.
At what point did you really say, I need help? Let me go seek help. I mean, because so many people deal with this, and again, we know people that refuse to get help. So at what
You know what?
point?
I didn't really have much of a choice.
Mhm.
I'll be honest. You know, the truth is, and this is my book, Black Pearl Blue Hope, and I write a lot. This is my first book. I have a
Okay.
couple
She
of
wants the book.
Yes, I'm
There
sure
you go. Put it in the
And
camera.
you
That's
can
mine.
And then for our YouTube viewers,
Yes, I collect the Nancy.
Okay, and I write about some childhood experiences that also, it was very obvious that something was going on even back then.
Mhm.
But again, I just kept trucking it. But after my second child, it started with postpartum depression. And then it just unraveled from there. And it almost was, it pushed me into getting help.
Yeah.
Not to mention, I got a very good support system.
Mm.
And so my support system was pushing me to get help. You had to get help, or, you know, it was a life or death matter, especially with my mother, because my mother knew I had a suicidal thinking pattern.
tendencies.
And and even in the book, I talk about the last time that I ever attempted, the last time I will ever attempt
Right.
to,
Amen.
to commit suicide. And even in my family, I make sure I say, I don't want to go back to that closet, or I don't want to go back into the restroom, because the place I was at then is where I'm trying to get other people to stay from.
Mhm.
And that is a real place.
Mhm.
So some people even tend to believe where if they don't succeed or if they don't do it, they didn't really want to kill themselves. But the reality is, you may chicken out when you're doing it, but it doesn't change the fact of the emotions that drove you to that
Yeah.
point.
That's right.
Yeah, so I didn't
We
have
have
a choice.
someone have a comment here. How big of a role does medication play in curing mental issues? In your opinion, is it necessary to give medication, or is it based on each individual? I know from what I know is that it's dealing with depression isn't a one size fits all thing.
It's not.
So sometimes medication, depending on what it is that you have, sometimes medication can either cure or at least alleviate the symptoms. But in other cases, it may take other types of therapy. So
Well, and also too, medication can also, the side effects.
yes, the side effects.
The side effects, a lot of people don't want to take the medication because of the side effects. And so it's a vicious cycle.
I think you said it perfectly. One size does not fit all when you're dealing with medication. I know I have struggled. I still struggle with medication management all these years later because of the side effects. So there's certain medications that just make you feel worse than what you would feel if you just was depressed.
Yeah. And some
And-
will make you lethargic. You can't even really,
You can't really
participate.
function.
Yeah.
And then there are other medications. I know I'm on a few right now that I love. You know, I feel like I'm able to function and, be part of life. Or there's others.
So does this ever end?
You know, I can't say one size don't fit all. What I would say, if somebody's dealing with a depression and they take some antidepressants and maybe seek some therapy, sometimes people come out of that, and they get right back to life, and it was just a bump in the road.
Right.
Where other people, like myself, it's been a lifelong struggle, with making sure I'm able to function, make sure that I'm able to mainly function. I'm just going to leave it there, because one thing people don't really tap into, we like to use the joke, I feel crazy. But there is a real feeling of not being able to function and not being able to get a grip to your thoughts. That
So the
is
sense of
probably
a loss of control.
Yes.
or-
And so that's the
Spinning
part.
control.
And that's the part that it's scary, but that's the part that we need to pay attention to. Because if you are having thoughts that you clearly cannot control, then I would definitely say get some professional help for one. And you probably should ask, if you'll be a good candidate for medication. And at least try it,
And I should be able to tell you.
Yeah.
Your practitioner or whatever should know you enough in your history, if they have the great bedside manner, to ask the pertinent questions to kind of get an idea. I mean, them knowing the medicine You know, it's like I need a therapist that really knows the medicine to be like you said, this would be you'd be a good candidate for this or that. And with that being said, I want to ask you this, because I lean more towards holistic. That's where I'm from Berkeley, California. Hey, shout out, you know, I'm gonna get that in.
She always got
I'm
to
gonna
push
get
California
it.
every time we go on there.
But I mean, like, you know, there have been times that I've just been like feeling out of sorts, and I'm like, I can get my butt back in the gym, you know, because those endorphins kick in and you feel better. I mean, you know, so people, you know, maybe throw some gym at it, you know, or some prayer or a massage or a little St. John's wort, you know.
I try to say that.
But I mean, I was telling my girls that, you know, when they would have their cycle, and I'm like, they're just crying, I'm like, take you some St. John's wort, you know. But really, truthfully, and it does vary person to person.
I
The
really,
people said on the show is
I believe in a holistic approach. And one of the things is soon I'll be opening a wellness center that will nurture and really cultivate the holistic approach, dealing with the mind, body, and soul. Because what happens is in this journey, you can't do one without the other. And you brought up the working out and getting your endorphins up, and that's very important when you're dealing with depression. You know, there's two sides to it. When you're depressed, you don't want to do anything, but then once you do that, you kind of get a benefit from it. But then at the same time, for me, when I'm working out, I like to pray and meditate and listen to gospel music. I want to be in praise and worship. And so all at the same time, now you're feeding all three parts of your well-being. If you just get medication and you don't address the other two areas, you know, the chances of your recovery is going to be much slower, and it may not be as effective.
It's just maintaining. It's not moving forward. You're just maintaining. You know, you got to get over that.
And it takes practice. You know, it's not something. It's, you know, well, that's easier said than done. No, I know all too well what it's like.
So, you know, we know that certain trauma events or life changes or death, anything like that, or factors of depression. What are some other factors that we may not be aware of?
You know, actually, a friend and I were talking about, you know, sometimes it could be getting some bad drugs, you know.
Wow.
Think about our community. You see these young people and you're wondering, you know, what happened? You know,
that drugs is true. That happened in our childhoods. One of my girlfriends' brothers.
I mean, something like that. That's just all of a sudden. Whereas somebody like me may have more of a genetic tie to being prone to deal with some depression, you know. So
is it congenital, or is it, you know, you just mentioned genetically. So would it be congenital, or would it just be something that's acquired? Because, you know,
I think it happens both ways.
Okay.
I think what happens is we're shaped by our relationships, our experiences, the traumas that the traumas that we, you know, have to endure.
I was explaining the other day, I call it the quilt of our life, because if you think of a quilt, it's patches. And so different quilts have different fabrics and there's squares. And so each of those squares of our life is a scene from our life. There's a period of our life that we've been through something. And so we make up who we are as the experiences of our life, and that's our quilt.
And if you think about it, if in her quilt example,
the fabric of our life.
if let's say 40% of the quilt is genetic. It's under the majority, but it's still a huge amount. But you have 60% of just you being quote unquote normal. Now you incorporate your life experience into that. I mean, you can very well get way over the 100% mark with all the things that we go through from our childhood up into young adulthood, and then as adults, you know,
they shape us. They really do.
They shape us. And so I wouldn't be able to answer, you know, that question. I feel like it's a combination of both. I think some people,
I agree.
They come about it through their life experiences, where other people, you kind of know something's wrong early on, you know.
Like that boy saying rap tight, or I mean, you see situations like that. So instead of, you know, I mean, we're old school. Actually, we're probably just school.
Speak for yourself.
But you know, back in the day, we'll say stuff like that, like, that boy, this ain't right, or can't get right, or whatever it is. So, what do people have to do though? Instead, that's really a form of bullying and things like that, because you're putting this person down and not knowing why he or she is acting like that. So, what is it that we can do, as adults, to say, hey, is everything okay with you?
Yeah.
And they may not be able to, because we got this thing in counseling where you can't rationalize with an irrational person. So is that the same thing, or how can we talk?
You know what? I think it starts at home. If all those grandmas and mamas and old schools and schools just go take all that stuff from under the rug that they've shoved under there for the last 40 years,
and they really and they keep walking and tripping over.
And they tripping over.
Keep surfacing.
And so
surfacing in the generations as they.
And so if we put that stuff on the table and say, let's deal with this, then we're able to start answering that question. We get to the root of things. We get to the whys, and now he's just not wrapped too tight. Now it's, his great grandpa had this condition, and we saw some of this in his mom.
Right.
But maybe we should take him to a psychiatrist, and let's just see what they think. Let's take him to a psychologist. It's
have the discussion,
but it has to come.
Well, as part of our assessments when we're talking to people, that's what we want to know. What was your childhood like? What did your household look like growing up?
The problem here, I think, what happens with the family, from what I can see, especially when you're talking about generations from before, to bring it up, come on. That means that you're acknowledging, and once you acknowledge it, now it's your duty to do something about it. And so, as long as you don't acknowledge it, it's not there. It doesn't exist. It's all in your head.
But again, you're sweeping that under the rug.
Exactly. And so, it's like, you guys, that's what generational curses, man.
Yeah.
That's what it is.
And so I was listening to the sermon and said, let go of those generational curses. They're not curses anymore. We're free.
Yes.
We're free in the new covenant. And so
he that is free is free indeed.
Yes. And
so when do we release that?
We release it like I'm sitting here.
If you look
at my
I'm just saying.
I could be on drugs. I can be an alcoholic. I can be a prostitute. I'll use that word instead. There's a lot of things that
she is married.
I could be a lot of things, if we're going to look back to generational curses.
Sure.
Now, it's not to say that those things don't still affect us, but I think getting to the point where we don't allow those things to control us.
Yeah, there it is. Don't claim it. Don't claim
But
it.
you also got to be intentional. Don't act about it.
Yeah.
Stuff like being alcoholic. I grew up with alcoholic. But I also saw what addiction did to people outside of my home. And so even now, if I start drinking too much, the first thing comes to my mind is, okay, no, I don't want that. If I start to go from one glass of wine a week to a glass every night, or
something's wrong.
Something's going on.
This out. And you know what? Just to go to show you as far as subliminal and how the psyche works, I used to smoke.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I used to smoke, and some of you really know me know that. But I don't any longer. And it got to a point where, smoke cigarettes. Sorry, I don't
clarify.
No, that just shows the school I am, right? Old school. But anyways, with that, I used to smoke. And I got to the point where I wanted to quit. I was like, I'm ready to quit. And he didn't like it, and it was really my time for me. And it was time to be alone because nobody wanted to be around you, right? But my point is, I wanted to quit. And so I'm like, okay, I already want to. So then I prayed on it. And then I thought, I'm going to just start saying I'm a non-smoker.
Mm-hmm.
And saying it. And I decided I'm quitting this day. And I did. Straight cold turkey. I just did. But I kept saying it to me. And the thing was so funny about it, just to go to show you how habitual it was, I had already made up my mind that I was going to quit. And I was like, okay, there's one left. So I'll just, and forgot, went and bought a pack. I got to turn it into quit. So instead of throwing it away, I was like, okay, I'll finish this one. But then I really methodically planned it, like the last one, that's it. And I did. But I kept saying, even that last week when I bought the pack and forgot, I was saying I'm a non-smoker. And even, I think, yeah, I might have had a couple afterward, but I just threw it away. But I felt good, and there was nothing between me and God, because I was the enemy that just kept on telling me that I needed it to think, you know, because that was my time where I could think, decompress, you know, work, a busy day, and it was like, I don't need that. I have God. And so what I'm saying with that is, it's what you tell yourself. Like, you're talking about that drink and that liquor. It's the things you're feeding yourself, or what your self-talk is. Changing your self-talk, and even the things that people say to you and how they're talking into you. I think that families need to start, just like we're supposed to speak about our man and the king and him and what we want to see and our husbands. It's the same thing with our children, our mothers, our brothers, our sisters, our family members. Start speaking into them how good they are and worthy they are, instead of he crazy, oh, he just ain't right and can't get right. Speak about what it is that God can bring about, because we're all worthy.
What I told you about this is
And wonderfully made.
amen to that.
It's the truth. Hey,
You know, me and my husband went through quite a bit during this journey. And I still think he's not diagnosed.
now that I'm fixed.
But what happened is we learned how to deal with each other and really love each other.
Amen.
And I think that's what came out of it the most, because he and I didn't know what we were dealing with at that time, you know, and I don't really think that we loved each other enough to love each other in that God way. And we maintained, obviously. We'll be married 11 years next week. So we've made it through some really, really low places.
Let me ask something about it. So,
I know.
I have a comment here.
Okay.
I'm going to address that one afterwards. But okay, so when we're doing either marriage ministry or even counseling, there are times when I have to tell the guy, and sometimes the woman also, but I have to let them know, hey, when you marry this person, you're marrying her daddy issues, her molestation issues, her childhood issues, her mama issues, whatever it is. You're marrying that. And it's incumbent upon you not to call her crazy or anything, but to say, let's get the help that we need in order to, you know, help, you know, us through this situation, you know. So what was that conversation like, or what was that, you know, when Reginald first, oops, I was supposed to say his name.
Yeah, that's fine.
when he was looking at you going, you kind of cray. What's going on here?
No, it's good that he's asking you that, because a lot of
yes, well, I'm asking for a
you
reason.
have a problem. We don't have a problem.
I'm asking for a reason, because and that's why I preface it like that.
That's the truth. He felt like I had the problem, and I, you know, confirmed it. I do have a problem, you know.
But it's we that have a problem.
That's right.
At that time period, we didn't see we. He saw him, I saw me, and we just happened to share pieces of our life together. When the mental illness hit, you know, what do we do when bad things happen? We back away. And so that's naturally what happened. And when I say not knowing how to approach it, I didn't know how to lean in onto my husband like that. And I leaned into my mother and my sister, because I felt like those were the safe places for me.
Sauce pasta.
They were safe. And if I leaned into my husband too much, then I was doing exactly that. I was saying something's really wrong. I would have had to explain what was really wrong.
Sure.
And for a long time, I just hid it from him. You know, he knew something was wrong, but he had no idea. He couldn't put a name to it, because that was how I protected myself. But as time, you know, time will tell, and we'll heal wounds, and we'll, you know, the truth will never be revealed.
Yes.
And so that's what happened. Time went on. Our relationship began to change and evolve. But yes, I was in total denial. I knew something was wrong, but I didn't want to just put that on my head. You know, I was just like, I'm going to deal with it the best I can. And I'm going to hide it from everybody else.
Even your husband.
Even my husband.
Because of fear.
It was fear.
You know, being judged and what people would say.
I don't want to be crazy.
Yeah.
And I was a little upset with God at that time. You know, I remember. And so what happened is, I feel like God took my mind.
Yeah.
It's the one thing that I had.
Hey guys, I finally have an alumni in the house.
With Marlins.
That's right. So let me go to the comment here. What are some of the signs that separate real depression from our everyday issues in life? And that's a great question.
Mhm.
It really is.
Repeat that question.
What are some signs that separate real depression from everyday issues in our life? So
Okay,
maybe,
I know what you mean.
yeah.
So doing because I teach a class at my local church, some semesters throughout the year. Friends, how do we differentiate? You know, do I need antidepressants or do I need priests? You know,
Right.
you know, because people are very extreme with how or are very lax in how they want to approach it. So what I tell people, if it's something that's lasting beyond a week or two, then it's probably something more serious going on.
Okay.
But
That's a good question and a good response. Yeah.
if it's something that you're dealing with just a couple of days, but you still find yourself smiling throughout the day, even if you go back down, that's a normal healing and grieving type of situation.
Is it important not to dwell on it or not to think about it or?
I don't believe in not thinking about it. I think if you think about it, you go ahead and allow yourself the ability to deal with what you're going through.
Yeah,
So
because
it's
you're not
resting.
thinking about it, it's pushing it.
Yeah, I mean, you
It's
go
just like
inside.
somebody
something's wrong
that's
here.
going to commit suicide and you feel that, okay, well, I won't bring it up. Maybe they're not going to do it, but that doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter because there is the truth that people do seek attention.
Mhm.
Yes.
But how are you to know what's in the person's heart?
Yeah.
So it's not your job to judge it.
Mhm.
If that's what that person is voicing, give the person the help that they need. Because if that person is going to be helped,
Mhm.
it's going to come from the help that they
And
need.
you can tell because the first thing, no, I got to go to work tomorrow. I can't be,
Yeah.
I can't do. Well, you're the one that brought it up.
Yeah.
It's 3 a.m. Why am I over here or whatever? I mean, people, I don't want to call them attention seekers in this
But
type
they
of
are.
situation,
Some of
but
them.
that's
A crying out because they don't want to do it.
It's
It's
a-
like understand the pain. They
so-
want people to know they're in pain. That's an alarm going on.
That's
I mean,
exactly what it is. It's not that I want to kill myself. I want to live, but I'm hurting so bad I don't know how to live.
Right.
So it's a cry out.
You're right.
Please help me, because if I say this, I know somebody's going to help me.
Yeah.
Now, that's why I say it's a thin line. Some people are attention seekers, while other people are really sounding an alarm,
Mhm.
while other people are ready to go.
So how do
they're
we deal-
really done.
How do we deal with these people that cry wolf, so to speak?
You know what? You pray for them. You give them the help they need. You pray for them. You send them about their way. But I had a young lady.
Accountability partners. I think that there's a buddy system that can help everybody. I think everybody needs a village.
Everyone needs a
Everybody needs a
village.
village.
But the problem is,
True.
I've been afforded the ability to meet people that don't have a village. I have a village and 2 and
Yeah,
3
me too.
more
Yeah, me too.
hanging behind
Yes.
me, and I praise God for
Yes,
all of them. I
thank
thank
you.
Him.
They're lifesavers.
But-
Hey, you guys.
But at the same time, I remember
Lifesavers.
one of the last calls that I got. It must have been about a year or 2 ago, and this young lady reached out on Facebook, and somebody else sent me her information. I reached out to her. She was ready. And the reason I know she was ready, because I said, I'm gonna come pick you up and take you to the hospital. She said, okay. And I sat at the hospital with her for hours. You know how that process could be.
Yep.
But that's how I knew she wasn't just crying wolf. She did not care. She needed help. And
She didn't care who it was.
she didn't care who it was. I'm a
You
stranger.
know, you I was gonna just gonna say,
She didn't know me from no. I could have picked her up and took her out in the woods somewhere. But the reality is, she was crying for help, and somebody needed to answer.
Right.
Now, what if I would have said, "Oh, she posted something 3 weeks ago. She all right." We don't never know
Judging.
what would have happened. That's not our place to judge if somebody's true intentions, or for attention, or they really just sounded an alarm, or they are really at wit's end and they need an intervention.
Yeah, we just know, and we just won't know when that actual time is going to be that actual time. It's something that's serious.
And you know what? With that, I gotta say this, because we have so many people that watch the show. There are people that have been affected by this deeply. There are people that have lost people to this. So let me say this to those people, because I've even had family members that are gone because of it. So I want to say this. I know that I think it is best when it comes to that, because we certainly don't want to bring anybody down that may start to, turn the the mirror, the magnifying glass on themselves, like, whatever, start to really look within. I don't want anybody to feel guilty from this. I don't want to start bringing up feelings for people. What could have I done? I'm hearing him say you could have did this, could have did that. what we want to do now while we're here with the living, and we have those that have gone on that are, we pray that our Heavenly Father has just wrapped them up in his arms and that they're our guardian angels. That's how I like to look at it.
Mhm.
But for those that are here, that's why we must have a village.
Yes.
Because our village is going to say, hey, you see so-and-so, they're not smiling like they were last week. What's going on with them? Her husband left. I mean, whatever. Really, the people that care about you, that are tapping into you, it's like something's not right here. Something's off. And having dialogue that's not gossip, but dialogue that really cares and wants to help,
I want to bring a clarity to one thing. Because someone talks about wanting to die or seeing themselves dead, that's very different from wanting to commit suicide. Because sometimes when you're depressed, or even when you're just real low, you don't even have to be depressed. You're just going through. It's very easy for the mind to wonder and say, I wonder if life would just be better without me. I wonder if I just drive this car into the wall, would I die instantly? I wonder if when I get down there, I have an instant car accident. And, it's very easy for the mind to wonder, especially when you've been attacked spiritually.
Enemy.
Yeah. So wanting to die or thinking of death or seeing yourself not living is very different from wanting to kill yourself. It's all death related. So if somebody that's, inexperienced is listening to someone's cry for help and they're like, oh, I just don't want to be here, I just want to die, I hate myself, or, it goes down and down and down the tunnel.
Yeah.
That's very different from saying, you know what, I'm ready. I'm ready. I don't even want to be here. The dialogue is different, and that's why it shows like this and conversations on the couch and in the kitchen, and these things are important so how when a person is communicating, what are they communicating?
Because what that looks like, I've heard that. That's a tone of I'm done, I give up. It's already like this. It's already like
it's without hope.
It's despair.
I did some research once, and I'll have to probably tag the article in it later. But it said the number one cause of successful suicides, was hopelessness. That people that were hopeful, that were hopeless, they were the ones that succeeded at it. And so you can get a person to find some sort of hope. And the good thing we have as Christians is we can find hope in the Word.
Yes.
Even when we don't want it.
Yes.
Even when we don't want it. For me, it's times I didn't want the hope. I was like, Lord, just leave me alone. Let me die. And that's just the truth of how when you're in that space, people can't say this, but I have the ability to say what they can't say. When you don't want it, you still have it.
You know what? Even though, and I wrote down a scripture here, even though the word depression isn't in the Bible, it doesn't appear in scripture, especially as it's used today, the connotation is used today. But in Proverbs 12:25, it reads, Proverbs 12:25 offers a quick note among other snippets of wisdom, but this particular, what I pulled from that was, anxiety weighs down the heart, but a kind word cheers it up. So you're talking about that hopelessness, when people feel that they're hopeless, that they don't have anything to live for. Sometimes all it takes is a kind word. Sometimes all it takes is a hug, a good morning.
Or
to be recognized, because they feel like
a field trip.
I love that.
I've been on a lot of field trips.
Really?
My mom and sister used to come and pull the curtains back and get out the bed.
That type of field trip.
And even if we were just going to the grocery store,
Get out the house.
we were just going window shop, whatever it was, a field trip.
Environment.
The environment it will suck the life out of you sometimes.
I said that. I used to years ago mentor teens at a teen television show, and it was about love. It was around Valentine's time, and they were asking how do you deal with a broken heart, and I said my words. If I remember, you can actually YouTube it. The show was called Highway for Peace, but I said take a trip, see things, just get out and see things. It gives you a different perspective, and then surround yourself with people who believe you're lovable, that just love you and think you're lovable, and can sow into you how wonderful and lovely you are. And that kind of it uplifts, it really does. Because broken hearts can be the reason sometimes people decide they don't want to be here as well.
So let's kind of, because we're way
I know
over.
we way over.
We're way over. Let's get to the question
You
for
ready?
tonight. And we don't know if the writer is listening, but we definitely pray that they receive the help that they need since writing this letter here. But dear Tori and Terry, I have been dealing with depression for some time now, and family and friends seem to totally disregard me, and some have even called me crazy. But no one is taking me serious. I've almost always turned to pastors, Christian counselors, or friends I truly trusted when I needed help. I can honestly say that there has been one friend who has followed up. One. I'm talking about the past 35 years. I am now 54. I have been so far down that I had my suicide plan, even down to the smallest details. I lost and in parentheses, I lost the physical ability to pull the trigger. I asked for a divorce after 29 years of marriage. And I don't know what the situational status of that, because that's all she mentioned about her husband. But it says, I asked for a divorce after 29 years of marriage. Not a pastor. I know I spoke to at least 4. My BFF and my mom. I'm here by the grace of God. I know that it seems I'm babbling, but I just want to remind all of us to check on those who have confided in us. You never know if they may be serious about doing something.
What did she say? Not a pastor, what? So in other words,
So
not
she
one pastor.
talked to at least 4 pastors,
and none of them
and none of them were able. But it was just like what you said, because they're ill-equipped to deal with it.
So that's
unless
what
not all,
had.
but
that's
those
what
that
she
she talked
Those
to.
are the
yeah.
she talked to. Yeah.
So that's what I wanted to address. Just because they're believers, pastors, leaders in the church, so many of them are not equipped to deal with mental health issues.
Some of them are
My-
afflicted themselves.
Some are very
Yeah.
afflicted, and some of them have that belief that, nothing wrong with you. You just need some more prayer, fasting, and
Yeah.
meditation.
Put some oil on it.
And put some holy oil on your tongue. But the reality is, but the reality is, why don't you get a professional counselor, a therapist, or a psychiatrist, whomever? Get a professional, and it's okay to say, "Are you a
in
believer?"
reading this letter, that never came up, and the whole time I was reading the letter, that's what I was wondering. Well, why are you going to these people instead of going to
You know why?
in
She
35
said she was
years?
54. Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
In
That's a
35
long
years.
time.
Okay, but let me tell you why. If you've come up believing that your pastor can help you and fix you and pray for you,
Yeah.
and not to say that she's, over spiritualizing her pastors or the pastors that she's talked to, but she was reaching for help in places that she felt that can help her.
Exactly.
But what I'm saying, my suggestion is to speak with a professional practitioner, and it's okay to ask that person, are you a believer?
Mhm.
What are your spirit, will you be able to guide me on this process without me feeling like I can't say anything about prayer
Exactly.
or I can't bring
Say
up scripture?
Yes.
I think that is the most effective way to deal with an issue like that. With me had gone through what I've went through, the psychiatrist I see right now, she know I love the Lord, so I'm gonna say something about, whether it's good or bad, it's gonna have something to do with some word at some point.
Exactly.
But you have to get with a person that's totally comfortable with that and can feed into that.
Well, even like with my husband and I, so we are Christian counselors, and the method that we do it where it's intimate and it's embracing. And so with that, it's not, even though we are applying clinical, they won't feel that because they're getting that holistic feeling and they're being brought in one-to-one as 2 couples just having, a talk, and just sharing. And couples usually like to talk to other couples because it's like, you want this, So that's what that feels, that village for them.
Exactly.
He's got his method, I've got mine, and it's just a yin and yang that comes together that, feeds into these and sows into these couples. And so that's what's helpful, and being that it's Christian, we let them know we speak it into them and over them
Mhm.
because it's in our dialogue. It's
Yeah.
part of, and I don't want to say script because each couple is different,
Yeah.
but it's how we address them.
Yeah.
And addressing them is one, and talking to them is one that starts to form.
One thing to the writer of that letter also is that if it's only one person that's on your team and part of your support system, cling on to that person.
Mhm.
But it's
She
important
said she had
to
one friend.
she had that one friend. Cling to that one friend and be very direct and specific with what your needs is out of that relationship, so that you and that friend can keep very healthy boundaries and in good communication, so that that friend is not overwhelmed by helping and supporting you.
And feeling like the only one.
Yes, and you're not pouring so much into her that there's a codependency
Exactly.
there.
Gotcha.
And so I think that that's going to be healthy, but cling on to that one friend. And
Let me
And you know
ask this.
Can I just add this? I know that when we were talking about the pastor, again, culturally, people aren't knowing. And so the pastor is where you go for spiritual. And so that's where people will go when they're feeling bad. When we go to church, get uplifted, hear the music. So they don't think to say, when you call your doctor. Because they don't even think the doctor is for a cold, sore throat. They don't think that the
Like
doctor
old
will be
school
able to.
Jesus is
Yeah, and that's what I'm saying. They don't
write
think.
out all my scriptures.
Yeah, they don't think that the doctor would even have that's a lane for a
give
doctor.
me your hand. Right with this. This is Jesus with the doctor hand. So who's writing those prescriptions?
There you go.
So yeah, Jesus getting your scriptures written,
You get
but
those
he's just using a man to do it.
scriptures.
Scriptions.
Sure, I'll play that song. Anyway,
Prescriptions, no.
yeah, Jesus is my doctor. He writes
writes
out all my scriptures. Give me all my medicine.
Come on in the room. That one.
The old lady said.
Uh-huh.
Anyway, what are some alternatives to seeking professional help without the finances to do so?
Support groups.
First of all, yes, but what I was going to say was you should never let finances be a reason why you can't get help.
No.
There's a nationwide group called SAMHSA. That's
I work for
it's SAMSHA,
SHA.
and they are probably the largest mental health organization in the world.
Yes, they are.
And you can call them. And actually, I had their number. I'll say it toward the end of the show here. But you can always contact them. They can connect you with counselors in your area. In addition to that, you can go to any one of the MMWR or MW.
MHMRA.
MH, yeah.
I don't know if they changed the
MHMRA.
acronym for but
Yeah, but
MHMRA.
mental health
If you
resources by the county
Yeah.
or by whatever city you live in, and you got to be careful with those places, though.
But you know what you need to do? Everybody Googles everything else.
Yeah, they do.
Google
Yeah.
mental health or
Professionals,
affordable
yeah.
mental health, or mental health free services. I mean, get to those city, county facilities like MHMRA,
And you know what, too?
and then they will be able to tell you where to go. If you're in the Houston area, call.
You call,
Is it- Is it
will
311? You
You
call
211.
211. Yeah, you call 211,
Yeah.
and they will be able to get you all
All
kinds of
resources,
resources.
Catholic charities, you name it, honey, all of it.
In addition to what they're saying, and another place where you can go, whether you're insured, underinsured, or need insurance, I guess, is the Federal Qualified Healthcare Centers, and they're called FQHCs, and they're in each and every city. They're typically in the economically depressed areas, but when you go there, a lot of them are just like going to a 5-star hospital. They're because they're funded by the government, and they're really nice. But the majority of all of them have places where you can get psychological help, mental health, IOP, OP, help. So there's plenty of resources out there.
And an alternative also, if some of the outpatient intensive care programs
Yeah.
may be more supplemental.
And those are the IP and OP programs
Yes.
I will refer
Yes.
to. Yeah.
Tell them what the IP and the OPs.
Should say.
Well, I'm saying
Intensive outpatient.
Yeah, intensive. They don't know.
Because sometimes that's more effective than, you
Mhm.
know,
Mhm.
just going to see somebody once or twice. Maybe actually get involved in one of the programs over several weeks
Mhm.
will really help pull someone out of the
Mhm.
hole, so that they're able to see a professional maybe once a week or once a month or so, and that will cut down on that expense.
Yeah. And probably thinking of they had like maybe some mental issues
Yeah.
going on, you know.
Just a tad.
And if you read any part of Psalms, other than the parts where he's just like giving total, homage to God, a lot of stuff that he's saying, he was troubled.
Mhm.
He was really troubled.
He was
When he went to
Yeah.
Ziklag,
Yeah.
he was troubled.
Yeah.
And one of the other scriptures I pulled up was Psalm 143 and 4.